Welcome to the Sales Beat podcast, where we explore sales intelligence in fast-moving consumer goods and how you can deliver against your sales goals. I am Veena Giridhar, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of SalesBeat, an AI-driven platform eliminating lost sales in fast-moving consumer goods sector due to understocking and overstocking. Last week, our podcast covered a few initiatives your company can put in place to help drive sales of your brand while at the same time enabling consumers to manage their expenses within budget. This week, we look at more ways to drive sales and maintain or gain market share during the coming months. Two things should be kept in mind with the current day situation. One, the average consumer has more savings in his or her account than he or she did before the pandemic, due to fewer travel and entertainment costs in the last 2 years or so. Two, inflation is rising rapidly, and consumers are not ready to cut their travel budgets due to the dearth of travel and entertainment during the last couple of years. In addition, travel costs have increased. This leaves them with a more limited budget for their household expenses. As there are major concerns around job security now, they are not willing and shouldn't be to dip into their savings. So, what can companies do to encourage consumers to open up their wallets when consumers start feeling the pinch? A significant amount of revenues is spent on marketing and advertising every year. Typically, this is spent on above-the-line advertising, with ads on TVs, billboards, and major sponsorships. Of the three, sponsorships is the only option that has the ability to influence the consumer and shopper in the current year. After more than 2 years of watching TV indoors, consumers and shoppers are ready to travel, meet people, and attend events. Sponsorship of events and the right PR is bound to get your consumers' attention, especially if the sponsorship is in the form of free product for attendees. There will now always be an association between this type of event and your brand that you're unlikely to get with TV and billboard spend. Another potential opportunity is to partner with travel companies to put together a travel-focused campaign. For example, Walkers and Doritos merged campaigns earlier this year in the UK to partner with Easyjet to provide free tickets to a lucky winner for a holiday. On a similar note, brands can also partner with travel agencies to formulate a novel travel itinerary named after the brand and pool advertising budgets with the travel agency to do a joint campaign. Another PepsiCo example is when they partnered with Ion, a real estate developer, to provide sustainable heating solutions for a new residential area in the city of Bern in Belgium. If they or other companies could similarly help residents with lower cost and sustainable alternatives to their current energy supply, consumer recall of PepsiCo or your brand could go a long way, longer than any TV ad or billboard. If you lived in an apartment or flat that received subsidized heating from PepsiCo's sustainable energy supply, wouldn't you be more loyal to their brand than you would with a TV ad or even a sponsored holiday? And each time you switched on your lights or powered up your laptop or computer, wouldn't you be reminded of PepsiCo? Also, now that travel has resumed following a few years of little to no travel, companies can do campaigns around reuniting families that had not met for a few years during the pandemic, or sponsor a traveling theater group to entertain audiences in smaller towns. This would combine entertainment and include a social element. Initiatives like this would ensure that consumers and shoppers have more disposable income for your brands as compared to other living expenses. Also, you are bound to see an increase in sales during the days the traveling theater is in town. This applies to all FMCG companies. If you have a food and beverage brand, people buy snacks and beverages for the event, or dinner or lunch for after the event or before the event. If you have a cosmetics or personal care product, people would use this before, during, or after the event, depending on your product. If you have a cleaning product, the town council and vendors are likely to use this before, during, and after the event, and so on. Other initiatives that tie into the consumers' and shoppers' needs in the next few months are those around social events and gatherings, and training and apprenticeship. The FMCG companies that are able to figure out a way to deliver this will experience the sort of loyalty that consumers in erstwhile war-torn countries have for brands that they bought during the war. That is, unflinching long-term loyalty for the brands that supported them and stuck with them. These days, it is not enough to develop a large-scale marketing campaign. It needs to speak to the consumer's needs and desires as well, to be remembered. Brands should look towards their archives and museum archives on initiatives that FMCG companies deployed during difficult years and reformulate them for current times and audiences. There are remarkable similarities between the lost generation and millennials. The lost generation was the social generational cohort that was in early adulthood during World War I. Marketing teams who work for FMCG companies should look toward how the lost generation behaved and how they were encouraged to be loyal to brands and apply those learnings during these times, but in a manner more in keeping with current technology and resources. If you have any thoughts on initiatives that FMCG companies can adopt to maintain and even increase sales, leave a comment here if you're watching on YouTube, and we'll address them in a future episode. If you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, email me on veena@salespeed.co with any questions. Thank you for listening.